Well, hey guys, it is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. It's great to be with you. I know it's a little bit late in the morning, but there was a lot going on with burning the midnight oil here tonight. Welcome to Inspirations for Your Life. Thanks so much for joining me. Our master topic for the week, in case you guys are wondering what that is, I'm going to let you know. It is embracing the journey, unlocking personal growth and adaptability. We're on series 4, by the way, in case you are wondering. And the granular topic for tonight is a really, really good one. This might be a great time for you guys to go grab something delicious from the kitchen. I know I've got myself a nice hot cocoa. Mm, you can almost taste and sense the feeling of that. I know you could probably hear it through the microphone as I'm just like, ah, very good. Very warm too. All right. Feels really good going down your chest. So, our topic for tonight, the granular topic, is mastering the art of decision making from overthinking to confident choices. Series 4, Show 5, episode number 4, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you here with me. And so, let's just kick off this show. All right. So, welcome to another exciting episode of the Inspirations for Your Life podcast, hosted by me, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, podcast host, and podcast coach. In tonight's or today's episode, depending when you're watching, I'm going to dive deep again into the art of decision making, exploring how to make choices that are not only smart, but also strategic and impactful. From gathering the right data to considering diverse viewpoints, I'll show you how to sharpen your decision making skills, remove uncertainty, and move forward with confidence. Now, this is all about creating an approach that's rooted in facts and future proof for success. Now, I invite you to get ready to unlock the power of informed decision making to transform your life. And let's work together with some great key points. All right, everyone? All right. That is really nice and delicious and hot. So, number one is emphasizing gathering facts and analyzing data. In today's fast paced world, decisions based on emotions or assumptions can lead to missteps. By focusing on gathering facts and analyzing data, you ensure your decisions are grounded in solid evidence. This approach helps minimize risks associated with emotional decision making and ensures that every choice you make is backed by logic and reason, leading to more predictable and successful outcomes. One thing I want to talk about, we'll talk about later when we get into the stories, but I'm going to talk about the scientific method. Number two, so it helps identify critical elements that influence outcomes. Every decision has multiple factors influencing its outcome. Critical thinking allows you to pinpoint the key elements that will truly affect your results by focusing your energy on what matters most. Now, you avoid wasting time and resources on distractions, and you ensure that your efforts are aligned with the most important factors that will drive your success. Okay. Um, Number three, strengthens the ability to foresee short and long term outcomes. One of the most powerful aspects of effective decision making is the ability to foresee the consequences of your choices, both in the immediate and distant future. By strengthening your ability to anticipate outcomes, you can create more strategic plans that align with both your short term goals and your long term vision, ultimately positioning yourself for greater success. Encourage considering diverse viewpoints and alternative solutions. The best decisions come from looking at a problem from multiple angles. By considering diverse viewpoints and exploring alternative solutions, you increase the likelihood, ladies and gentlemen, of finding the most effective and inclusive answer. I think that's really important to understand. This is not only important because it will lead to better decision making, but also foster innovation and encourage collaboration, ensuring that all relevant perspectives are indeed considered. Well, number five, provide a structured approach that minimizes uncertainty. Making decisions without a clear plan can lead to uncertainty and second guessing. A structured decision making process gives you the confidence that you are making the best choice based on logical steps. By following a methodical approach, you can reduce the fear of making the wrong choice, leaving you assured that you are on the right path, or shall we say, on the right track. Number 6, enhancing your flexibility to reassess and adjust decisions. The world is constantly changing, and so should your decisions. Flexibility is key when it comes to decision making. And by remaining open to reassess and adjust your choices as new data or circumstances arise, you ensure that you are always moving in the right direction. And this adaptability makes you more resilient and prepared for whatever challenges may come your way. So I think these are important things to talk about, but we're going to go and dive deep and we're going to actually talk, ladies and gentlemen, about these different points. And I'm going to add stories to them because I think stories are the best way that we learn, everyone. When a story's out there and we're able to do some amazing stuff, I think that's just like, really, really incredible. So I always like to embrace this stuff with a story, if that's okay with you guys. All right. So the first point I'm going to talk about here is emphasis on gathering facts. So for this, I want to dive into something called the scientific method. Maybe some of you are familiar with it, maybe you're not. And either way, it's okay. I'm going to share what it is. So, the scientific method is a systematic process used to investigate questions and acquire knowledge through observation, experimentation, and analysis. It is typically something that involves forming a hypothesis, conducting experiments to test, and then drawing on conclusions based on results. So when was it invented? Let's go back there. The history of the scientific method. Well, it actually has its roots back in ancient Egypt and Babylonia. There are a few explicit discussions of scientific mythologies and surviving records from early cultures. The most that can be inferred about the approaches to undertake science in the period stems from descriptions of early investigations into nature. We're talking about 1600 BCE. And so this even dates back in the time of Aristotle with his inductive and deductive methods using inductions from observations to infer general principles. But, I think a lot of science classes like to use the scientific method. So the question is, how do you use or employ the scientific method? Well, it's not hard, but there are some steps to it, okay? So number one is you're going to ask a question. Let's say, let's take the common one, which is acids and bases, which is a pretty common one. What will happen when I pour this acid into a base? Um, Maybe I'll do some background research to see what's happened with other experiments like this. I'll construct a hypothesis. So now that I've done some experimentation on, research, like I could say, well, gee, what happens if I pour an acid into a base? You can Google that. Um, there is some important things to know. There's some safety things, right? So understanding the acid-base relationship is key. It helps to understand that what acids and bases are. Acids are chemicals with a pH less than 7 that can donate a protein or an H plus ion in a reaction. Bases have a pH greater than 7 and can accept a protein or produce an OH negative ion in a reaction. So if you mix equal amounts of strong acid and a strong base, the two chemicals essentially cancel each other out and produce a salt and water, mixing equal amounts. An example would be a reaction between strong acid HCl, hydrochloric acid with a strong base NaOH, sodium hydroxide. The salt that is produced is table salt or sodium chloride. Now, if you had more acid than base in the reaction, not all the acid would react, so the result would be salt water, and leftover acid, so the solution would still be acidic. If you had more base than acid, there would be leftover base, and the final solution would be a basic pH greater than 7. So, the thing is, what happens? Is there a reaction when I pour basically a base to an acid? And so, they will give off a reaction. It occurs between when you do an acid and a base, and it can be used to determine the pH via some tests that you can do. So it's a chemical reaction that happens. It happens from heat and chemicals. So my whole thing is that acid base reactions can be dangerous. It's important to wear the right type of safety material, glasses, etc. But my hypothesis would be that when I pour this in, we're going to get a reaction. That's my hypothesis. Okay. And so then I would conduct the experiment after putting on the appropriate safety gear and whatnot and goggles, because one little flare up from that could burn your skin or cause some really serious problems. So you test the experiment. So you construct the hypotheses. You test with an experiment. There are procedure warnings. If there are none, then you can proceed. If there are procedure warnings, then you have to make sure that you've taken care of that properly. Um, Analyze the data and draw conclusions. Results align with the hypotheses, or results align partially or not at all with the hypotheses, and then you communicate the results. So just to go through this, so ask a question is number one. This is where the student or the scientist will say a how, a what, a when, a who, a which, a why, a when, a where. For a science fair project, some teachers require that the question be something you can measure, preferably with a number. Like when I flip this switch, um, 24 volts is going to go through this wire, or this light is going to come on, or this motor is going to spin, or whatever it is. Do background research rather than starting from scratch and putting things together. It's easier to do some background research because you want to be a savvy scientist using, your library or internet research to find out, the experiment. Maybe you can learn something from what other people have done. Maybe you can learn something more. All right, construct hypothesis. Hypothesis is an educated guess about how things work. It's an attempt to answer your question with an explanation that can be tested. A good hypothesis allows you to then make a prediction. If this happens, I do this, then this will happen. State both your hypothesis and the resulting prediction you'll be testing. Predictions must be easy to measure. For detailed help with this, you might want to consult things about variables that beginners use, writing a hypothesis in your science fair, just some ideas. Test your hypothesis by doing an experiment. You should also repeat your experiment several times to make sure the first results weren't just an accident. This is very, very important. Make sure that you have identified all the appropriate materials that you're going to need. Always follow the appropriate safety protocol. Communicate your results. You can do a video of it. You can write it down. But that's going to be required in any type of science experiment that you do. And so the 6 steps of the scientific method are really simple. Ask a question about something to observe. 2, do background research to learn. And what is already known about the topic. Now, in school, when I was in grammar school and I'm going to even say high school, we weren't really taught about that second step. So that's something new I've only learned recently. But it is important to do background research to learn what is already known about the topic. Number 3, construct the hypotheses. What's going to happen? When I do what? If I do what will happen? Experiment to test the hypotheses. Analyze the data from the experiment, draw conclusions, and communicate the results to others. Now, it's important that you do the experiment several times because, if you just do it once, it might not be exactly what you were expecting. And so the scientific method was not invented by any one person, but is the outcome of centuries of debate about how best to find out how the natural world works. The ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle was among the first known person to promote that observation and reasoning must be applied to figure out how nature works. The Arab Muslim mathematician and scientist Hassan, known in the Western world as Al-Azan, is often cited as the first person to write about the importance of experimentation. Since then, a large number of scientists have written about how science should ideally be conducted and contribute to our modern understanding of the scientific method. So all good scientists should use the scientific method, okay? All right, number 2, help identify crucial elements that influence outcomes. So when we think about a decision, a lot of times a decision is affected by our emotions. But we know from the past, or if you don't, you're going to learn tonight, that we can't make all decisions based on emotions. If we do, later on, we're not going to be too happy. All right. So we have to have some logic. We have to have some real reasoning, some facts. Okay. And so help identify that and focus your energy on what matters most. Again, there are multiple factors that will affect the decision. And if you don't know what those are, well, make sure you do understand them before you make your decision. Number three, strengthen the ability to foresee short and long term outcomes. Um, Try to get an idea about what it would be like to foresee the outcome. Now, the outcome could be one thing, it could be something else. I mean, it could be a lot of things, right? But I want to encourage you to basically figure out why you're deciding a certain way or why you're getting a certain thing. This is important because so many people I talk to, they make a decision and they don't realize why they're deciding. They just decide and they're hoping that that'll be, that'll be like the best thing to do. But a lot of times, it's not the best thing to do. So that's the thing I want to share with you. It's not the best thing to do because a lot of times they are, let's say, focused on something and they don't actually know where they're going. Number four, encourage considering diverse viewpoints and alternative solutions. So, even though you've got a great idea and a great plan, there might be another way to do this. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you really should consider other ways to do your experiment or to do your research. So, providing a structured approach minimizes uncertainty. And we talked about that before. So, what I want to dive into right now is, what are some, let's say, structured approaches for one I'm going to say will be for setting promises to yourself. Okay. Um, I think the biggest one is that you've got to get involved. All right. That's one of the biggest ones. We've all probably heard of SMART before. SMART is not new. Specific, measurable, attainable, and relevant and time based goals. That's one that's been around for a while, right? Make your goals or your promises clearly defined and specific. For instance, if you want to do a specific thing, try to be more specific about what it is you want to do. If you want to make X money, how much money do you want to make? If you want to lose certain weight, how much weight do you want to lose and by when? Measurable. It should be able to be tracked. Continue with the previous example that you've maybe had, and maybe you want to do something that will maybe help you to do that specific task. So that's important to understand. Attainable. I have a lot of people that, they want to build the Brooklyn Bridge, and there's nothing wrong with building the Brooklyn Bridge. Okay. Again, but we have to really think about what it is we want and why do we want to build the Brooklyn Bridge? Is there a reason? I don't know. Relevant. The promise should align with your core values. You want to improve your overall physical health. Okay. So these are important. There are things like backward goals or backward promises. It's something that starts from the desired outcome and works backward to the identity so that you can identify necessary steps to get there. That's always pretty fun. One word promise setting. Maybe you made a New Year's resolution only to find out that you've already broken it in February. If so, you're not alone because a lot of people just don't realize what it takes to achieve this. And this is why whenever I create goals or promises, I want to make sure that they are in alignment. They're not just things I want to throw on paper. So this is why I spend a lot of time. The Locke and Latham's 5 principles. This started in 1968 toward a theory of task motivation and incentives by Edwin Locke. He showed the importance of motivation, feedback, and to clear promises and goals for success. The method has 5 key principles. Clarity. You should be clear and easy to understand what they are that you're setting. Challenge. The promise should be challenging enough for you to work diligently at. Commitment. Your aspiration should be something you want to pursue in the first place. Feedback. Track your progress and be open to constructive feedback. Task complexity. Although it can be challenging, it shouldn't be too complicated. The most discouraging ones are the ones beyond our abilities. And that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means today that may not be the great idea. There's something called a goal pyramid. You attain your goal or promise. It's like climbing a pyramid. The first step is you set your sights on the top of the pyramid by defining the overall mission. Then you start laying the foundation by setting small, achievable goals that will get you closer to the ultimate goal. So let me say it again. So the first step is to set your sights on the top by defining the overall mission. Then you have smaller things that you're going to work your way on up to. You got things like KPIs, key performance indicators. I think those are really cool. Then you got things like something called the hard goals. Is it heartfelt? Is it animated? Is it required? Is it difficult? But remember, don't make all your goals just about emotions because you're going to be disappointed if you only do things because of that. Unlike a lot of realistic goals for some people, they feel that they can't go after something big. Now, I don't mean you can't, but I just mean that you need to do something small first, all right? The BSQ or the BSQ, big, small, quick. So, the main concept of this framework is it has three main components. Think big, come up with your biggest aspiration and promise to yourself. Act small. Consider the milestones you need to set along the journey for this. And three, move quickly. Have a time frame to follow through. Think big, act small, move quick. Another technique is the OGSM. It's a framework that stands for objective, goals, strategies, and measures. The OGSM model is easy to understand and it requires no technical knowledge or skills. And it's very, very easy, ladies and gentlemen, to implement. And it's one you may want to give a try. Something called the WHOOP goals stands for wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. Here's what you need to know. Make sure that the promise or goal is exciting and motivates you to tread forward. Outcome, visualize the result with detailed planning to accomplish your goal or passion. Think about all the different obstacles that could put a stopper to your goals and try to remove them. Plan, make a step-by-step plan to get rid of roadblocks. Micro goals, start from the small things and work your way up to the top. Structure is very key, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's important to be flexible. I talk to so many people that they want to get something, but they are not open to how they get it. They have to get it at this time, at this date. So just be flexible. And I found that when you choose to be flexible, life just sort of opens up these magic doors because our energy really helps us determine how and where and what we're going to do and if our dreams become a reality. So I think that's a real important one. And I know as we're talking about this whole week, these are topics that most people don't want to talk about. And I'll tell you why. It's because they've failed at them in the past. Now, remember when I said to you, just because you failed at something in the past doesn't mean that you should not do it. Okay, that's very important. Just because you failed at something in the past does not mean that you should not do it. And so if you're thinking about, why I can't do something now or this is impossible, if you have that kind of a mentality, you're never going to go anywhere. All right. Your future's going to be just where you are, and you're probably going to go backwards. And nobody really wants that, do they? So I want to share with you the fact that if you have not achieved anything, let's say in the last, I don't know, let's say in the last 90 days, if you haven't put something out there in the world from your heart, I want you to think about that tonight or tomorrow. And before this week's over, I want you to set an intention for something you want to make a reality. Then I want you to picture that every night. And I want you to get something that you are going to be so passionate about because when it happens, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. But yet when it does happen, you're going to celebrate that. All right. So I think that's a very, 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 very important thing is to definitely celebrate that. So do remember that that's an important thing to do. And I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that you have to believe in for yourself because if you do not believe in it, you're going to have a really, really big problem, a very, very big problem. But, you don't have to take my word for it. And I think that'll help you go somewhere. It doesn't happen overnight, but it will change you. And that hopefully will put you on the right path. Does that make sense, everybody? Hopefully it does. And I hope that you'll understand that it comes from who you are inside. But sometimes we get taken back because we get what I like to say overwhelmed. And this overwhelming happens because it's like all these things are suddenly around us. And then it's like, like, what do we do? And I think the what do we do happens because it's like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do now? And all you have to do, ladies and gentlemen, is just realize that you got to just stop, breathe, and enjoy life a little bit. And don't be in such a rush because haste makes waste. Enjoy life. Have yourself an amazing evening and check out Believe Me Achieve